once broken, forged anew.
Did you want waffles?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Warlocks and Waffles. Junie, we're a TTRPG morning show. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, I don't know this part we usually nonsense for about
Oh, don't worry.
10 minutes. I was you asked me what I did for the weekend usually, and then
Well, I mean, Junie,
I
I asked you what you did over the weekend on Monday, and then you didn't ask me. So then I felt like this is a one-way.
What is happening right now? I took chicken strips, y'all, and I made a chicken strip pizza. Has anybody ever seen this before? KFC's doing it now. They're making chicken strip. They're making chicken pizza.
The cheesa.
Yeah, I did that, and
is it good?
It was good. It was better than it had any business being.
Nice.
So
cool.
We're a TTRPG morning show. What already, man? It's just the first thing you said.
We yeah, it was a. Did you do anything fun over the weekend?
That was it.
Okay.
That was the best thing I did.
So, Junie, was it worth me asking?
It wasn't. I'm just flustered, thrown off guard. I don't like
Good.
it.
What
did I do to you? what did I do to deserve this?
You just kept sending me thirst traps all weekend. It was weird, man.
We're tasteful, and I was showing you my new camera. Like it's just. I don't do it on purpose. I'm not trying.
Welcome to Warlocks and Waffles, home of the accidental thirst trap. We are here to tell you about things and stuff, and start your week with some nonsense.
Hunter accidentally came up with like what our like team shirts are going to be when we have like
our company offsite.
The Warlocks and Waffles, home of the accidental thirst trap. That's hilarious, and it'll be like, you're like, what booth are you working at? Because it'll look like we're wearing a booth shirts.
Oh man, what a start! What a morning.
We said we were going to do a short show today. We were going to run about maybe 5 to 6 minutes before we gave up, and so we had to cram a lot in here.
I messaged Junie and I said, "Hey, do you want to do the show?" And he said, "Not really." And so we're not. This is it. This is the end of the episode. Have a great day.
But you should have realized that the picture that I sent you was me wearing a feather boa like this, like, and then but the caption said "not really." But was I serious? I thought it was clear on my face how I felt about that.
Well, now I don't know what to believe. Y'all, it's Monday. That's the beginning of the week for those of you who don't know.
Oh. I was like, what is the significance of this? All right, here's something random. And I don't know, just literally pivot and change subject if you were like, we're not talking about this, but real life. were you even remotely aware that it was St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah.
I was not.
Yeah.
Like, not even at all. I went to
Then
like
why were you
Wawa,
wearing a leprechaun hat in the picture?
once again, I told you I was going through my closet and I needed different colors to show you like the range that the camera could go through. But like it was like my wife was like, "Oh yeah, St. Patrick's Day is happening, right?"
Mhm.
And then I was like, "Oh yeah, when is it?" And then it was today, and we were driving home and it was dark, and I was like, "Oh, like what
Yeah, yesterday.
what month is it?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what's happening? I don't know what time of year. I've always been the kind of adult that is amazed by like the change in time, like where you go outside and you're like, it's dark outside at this hour, and like the childlike wonder that has never died.
Yeah.
And I don't know when that's going to change. And now instead of just like, oh, the time's changed, oh, it's darker, it's lighter out at this hour,
Mhm.
now I'm missing full like calendar, like, oh, it's
Events.
Christmas. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's starting with St. Patrick's Day and it's going to end up with like Christmas. I'm going to end up with like, Christmas is today?
Mm-hmm.
Since when?
Grace has a very good memory, and I have very bad object permanence, which results in situations where when things like daylight savings time happen, and excuse me, daylight savings time will happen, and we'll like go outside or something like that, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, it's dark already," or "Oh my goodness, it's like it's so light out," or whatever. In my head, I look around and I'm like, is this not what it is like normally at this time? Because it's what it is right now at this moment, so it clearly is always like this at this moment. I have no frame of reference. And she's like, you're almost 30, and I'm like, no, stop. Please. Yeah, we went to Red Robin for lunch yesterday, and walked in, and every person in there, customer and employee, had green on in some capacity, and we were like, oh, must be St. Patrick's Day.
Fantastic.
Junie, we had a conversation
When?
recently on the show where we talked about you were pitching me your very, very original one-shot ideas or campaign ideas.
Yes.
They were all very original, not from anywhere else.
Yeah, people shouldn't steal them
People shouldn't steal them. It would be very rude.
without giving me money. Like, yes.
You had pitched an idea in that call about an adventure where they go into this cave, they find this genie lamp, like maybe there's magic carpet involved, like fighting an evil sorcerer, all this stuff. Over the course of that, we kind of started playing around with this idea of like a party of characters being attuned to like the magic lamp all at once, that there were like they were all kind of in sync with the same magic item, which got my brain going on just this concept of like group attuned items that the group as a whole attunes to, and it extends the benefits to everyone. So that's what we want to talk about today. That's what we're going to dive into, is what does that look like? What does that entail? Are there items or benefits that you're like, oh, this would be a good one to extend to a party, or this would be something you don't want to give to everybody in your party, or things like that. Do you have any like right off the bat ideas of like ways that you would use this?
Yes. In trying to like think of like, because in a rare moment, my wife said like, so what are you doing tomorrow? I was like, oh yeah, we're doing Warlocks. I was like, no, but do you know what you're doing? And I was like, you care? And I told her, and I don't intend to mansplain. I just break things down to simplest dumb logic, and that's the way it comes out. And but I said something like, oh, we're gonna share attunement, kind of like it's like, a community fridge where everybody puts their stuff in there, or like a magical timeshare, or like
Yeah.
something like, they're all whatever. And then I kept thinking of like what could be a magic item, like what's a magic item that like you don't need to, like, boots, slippers of spider climbing, you don't have to attune to it.
Right.
Certain things you need to attune, some you don't. And then what would this be on that scale? Was it more powerful? Is it less because it's like flimsier? And then I thought of one that I think a lot of people, at least maybe it's just people my age, will get. We've seen a shared attunement item in media, and it's, imagine you have a ring and it can do like firebolt, and then it can like at a higher level maybe has a spell slot of like burning hands or scorching ray or something like that. And then you get another one that has mold earth, but then you might have like I don't know, some sort of earth grasp or something like that. And then you have another one that has like the gust cantrip, and it has like that wind wall. And then you just make the planeteer rings from Captain Planet, right? Just imagine you have these sets of rings, and you all have it, but then, oh boy, if you combine those things, you make your new patron, which is Captain Planet. I've been wanting to do a Captain Planet one shot for one time, but I thought of like a shared
This isn't
thing.
the first time you've brought up Captain Planet. Yeah.
It is not, but it is something where they all have their individual abilities and powers, and then together they have an added boon or something like that.
Yeah.
And you can kind of mix and match in ways where I think it's always cool when you see like a tag team collaboration between magic things.
Combo moves.
Yes. But essentially, like, if you do something where it's like this by itself is this with its other pieces does this.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you have to think of what the whole looks like, and then what different combinations of this thing looks like, and then the single ones. But what does the thing do by itself? What does it do in the hands of everybody that is in like connection with it? And what can it do with only some of the people that are in connection with it?
Yeah. I like the concept of like group attuned in the sense of like they're meant to interact with each other. And they are like symbiotic almost, where they like they benefit each other and they unlock new abilities and new benefits by being interacted with other people. I think the idea of having items that are like not only can interface with other people, where they're like gonna do cool things if you use them with other people's items, but it not only can, but it actively encourages people to like figure out cool ways to do stuff together. I think that's a very cool like just game mechanic in general to play with. I introduced an item to one of my groups. Shout out to the AOKOs. They recently named themselves. They're the Agents of Opportunity. So for a while they've been calling themselves the AO. But the in our last session they got asked like, what are you called? And they had like a team huddle to like figure it out. And they decided on the AOKOs because they're from the Agents of Opportunity and they get knocked out a lot. But I gave them an item that I called Snorblacks the Bumbling. Which is a humanoid skull that has like a spike through it, and it's kind of like a flail almost. It's like a spiked a skull with a spike through it that has a chain hanging off of it, and you kind of like can swing it around, or you can like loop it through your belt or whatever. But Snorblacks the Bumbling is a magic item that was given to them by not a patron because they're not like a warlock relationship, but just like a magic person gave them this item, uh,
As they do,
as
yes.
they do,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a boon that was given to them to help them like do better. Um, and so when they cast identify on it, and I believe I described it as um this is Snorblax the Bumbling, a magic charm designed to help fools succeed. And what it does is it essentially,
Insulting. Just
yes,
insulting them.
incredibly
Okay.
so, yes. It gives the party essentially 3 luck points that they can pull
Mhm.
from as a party. So like they only have 3 that they can use, but anybody in the party is able to pull from those points. So if like one person wanted to use one, and then another person wanted to use the other one, and then a third person wanted to use the third one, they can. It extends that to anybody who is in that party. And it can be used for any role of theirs. So it's kind of like almost more like a bardic inspiration, where it's like
Mhm.
oh, if you're making a roll, you can spend this thing. As opposed to like an actual luck point, because they can't force a monster to re-roll their attack or something like that. But if they are making a roll, they can pull from that point if they need to. And it's just to help the party not die.
Okay.
Um
So does it's one thing. Do they need to be holding it for
no.
them
So
to?
it's one person has it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it essentially the way I've set it up is that just like a regular like adventurer can attune to 3 items,
Hmm.
in theory the party as a whole could also attune to 3 items. Where
Oh,
if they found more items that could be like attuned to the whole party, they could
shared.
attune like
Oh,
multiple items. But it's just one person has it, and then whoever wants to pull from it can. It's more like an aura that emanates off of it than a like something that you pull directly from.
I know how to break this and be really like aggravating for you. No, for them, I guess. Because you said they had to use it for themselves, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
I think it would be kind of fun. Does this thing have a personality, a sentience? It has a
They haven't
name,
really
so
they
that's
haven't really engaged with it.
okay. Cool.
Snorblax is the name of the person who once possessed the skull.
Okay. Because it'd be kind of funny if it was they were how like there's some meddling like they want to help you do better, but then it
Mhm.
kind of is a little more meddling. Uh, if you have is it 3 per session, long rest type of thing, like that's how it
Yeah,
works, or
long
is
rest.
it?
Like you,
Yeah,
just like Lucky.
just imagine like and they can all pull from it, whoever needs of that. But you know how like there's a uh I think it's for the wild magic sorcerer. They kind of have that. They can like bend wild luck or
Mhm,
type
mhm.
thing. Imagine if you have the thing, because the way you have right now, it doesn't matter who's holding it.
Right.
Imagine, depending on who's holding it, if somebody's close enough, they can influence something that they see because it's their turn before the other person, but it
Hmm.
takes 2 points.
Interesting.
And they have to make that call. Do I use 2 of the group's points right now?
Mhm.
But I could make sure that they're gonna blank, or I can make sure that like it's almost like it's the meddling of it, but it's using up more of
Mhm.
the resources. Like, dude, don't. It's early. Don't use 2 of our things.
Right.
But it's gonna create that inter-party dynamic of it's like I trust you. It's like you're not there. Okay, hold on. It's
Right.
like what are you doing? It's like you're not here. I have the thing right now,
Mhm.
and then it becomes who's holding it.
Right.
Because right now it doesn't matter. They all have it. But then it creates the whole,
Yeah.
well, let me hold it, or we have to take turns, or only one person can at a time make the double whammy.
Mhm.
Or if you do the double whammy, you can't use one next time. Like some sort
Right.
of, give and take. But
Yeah.
I think it's important.
Alternatively,
Uh-huh.
you go the opposite direction. It's not that the person who's holding it can spend points to do like more stuff. it's that the person that's holding it technically is like
Luck
in charge
themselves.
of the flow of that energy. And so when somebody else wants to use it, the person who's holding it has to use their reaction to to allow
Yeah.
that thing to happen, which also means that it couldn't happen like multiple times in like the same round of combat. But like the person holding it has to use their reaction, which also means that whoever's holding it could decide not to give you that point.
Yeah. This right here has done three things that I feel is really important to highlight. One, it's whenever a GM makes anything,
Hmm.
it's never done.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
If
it's not that
if
you
any of
didn't
my
make a
players
cool
have ever
thing.
received a
Yeah.
like a homebrew anything, it's gonna be a like here is its current version.
Yeah, it's V1. We're
If
gonna
I
get to
need to change
V2. Yeah.
something, we'll change it.
Yeah. And two, with something like this, I personally feel like the keeping aware of, like you said, you described like an aura. We always should know where its its nexus is,
Hmm.
because can that be taken away? If it's not a matter of like it matters where it's at, but then does that mean that if it's taken away it's easily broken, that connection? Like, so like being aware of like how it's doing, and the way you described it like a conduit, I think is kind of
Hmm.
important. But then also, um by adding just a small, almost like a detriment, you can make it more interesting. And also, we can already see the interparty dynamics of like, we made it like, oh, they can use more or they got to use a reaction. Like, it's taking something away. It's doing something where it's like, it's seemingly a negative,
Hmm.
but we know they're going to have to talk to each other. Oh no, they're going to be mad at Dave over there because Dave decided to blank to do it or not to do it.
Yeah.
He's not holding the thing anymore. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's one of those things where it's, by taking something away, you're adding so much more to it.
Hmm.
Uh, but what, how do you want this to be? Like a little, it's just, I kind of gave them a little safety net, or do you want this to be something that they, I don't want to say like rely on like a crutch, but you know how we all make that one thing that we made it like, oh yeah, we made this thing, and then you're like, now this has become a key facet to my everything right now. How big do you want this to kind of be? Do you want it to be like more of a, yeah, it's a thing they have, or it's just like, oh no, if this is like their mascot or their thing, yeah, that'd be funny. Um,
Hmm.
where do you see it on like what you, as far as your intention? Because obviously we can't
I think
control what they're gonna
my
do.
right. I think my intention is they are still relatively low level heading into a fairly dangerous area. So just kind of a um just kind of a way to help them survive that a little bit. Um but it's not necessarily it's not necessarily one way or the other. I think my base level intention would be to just be a little bit of a safety net. Of
Mhm.
like, did somebody horribly fail a saving throw that they really need to make? Like, try again. And giving them a way to do that without it being like, okay, well, let me figure out a way to justify giving you advantage on this roll.
Yeah. Then because I know my next logical step would have been like, almost make it sentient or make it so they can talk to it or something like that. Because as soon as like you see a skull is like, oh, speak with dead or something like that, uh, I would I would instantly just kind of, it's a charm. Like it's a totem, it's a charm, it's a whatever. Because if you still make it that it's a a person or people or anything, then it's like, oh, this is gonna be a mascot.
Hmm.
This is gonna be a pet. And there's a difference between like, this is a sword and this is my buddy Hans the slasher, and it's a because so it's like you've given it a name, which is so hard because they're gonna personify it, and it's such a slippery slope to it becoming like it developing its own personality.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, yeah, it's really funny. Uh, I think I think it's just so interesting that the way it is right now with your shared luck pool essentially.
Hmm.
Um, the the fact that there is an aura and they don't need to attune to it. Did they have to do anything to like establish this? Because that's always something where it can just be like, hey, everybody put their hands on it's registered now, or you all put a drop of blood on it and then now you're
Yeah.
connected to it. Like what is that like? Because that's once again something where it's like it's the initial person registers it and then adds their 5 friends to their circle, and then
Hmm.
all you guys are registered, or everybody put your hand on it and say that. Like it's a thing where you could make it a cool story moment and stuff like that, or
Hmm.
it's just like almost like an app registration thing where it's you're assigning the people that are allowed to. It's like spells you can go the people you designate, so it could
Right.
just be that someone assigns this to you, a warlock patron or a powerful wizard. It's like
Hmm.
these are the x amount of people I designate. In your instance, how did the registration process work out?
For me, what I did, I just kind of did a like when they received the item, and then when they took their long rest, um, just in the presence of it, it kind of like attunes them to it. Like they're all sitting there taking the long rest, and kind of it pulls them in and kind of makes that connection. Anybody who didn't want to connect to it obviously could choose not to, but anybody who had the intention of it, that it kind of made that bond. I didn't go too deep into like any sort of like crazy you have to like
Mm-hmm.
there's a spike through a skull, you have to stab your hand with the spike. Like I didn't dive
Mm-hmm.
into any like specifics of it other than that like the end of your long rest everybody is attuned to it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm here for it. Because I don't think I would ever make attunement work the way that it kind of did it in the Dungeons and Dragons movie, where I love the idea of attunement might not be as straightforward as like just like you know you meditate on it for an hour, you take a long rest, and then that's it. Um, but I think it is perfect for something like we're talking about, where it's one person couldn't attune to this.
Hmm.
It would be too much.
Yeah.
They could not handle it. It would end up being like the Dungeons and Dragons, like they're trying to roll, they're trying to like uh, convince the
Oh,
item,
interesting.
but
Like so
more
it's
than one
not
person.
it's not meant for one person. Like it's
Correct. And
meant to kind of distribute that across people because one person it would be like
it
overwhelming.
wouldn't. Yes. And so it's almost like taming something, where it's just like I can't tame this by myself. We all come together and it just kind of like spreads out. Because
Hmm.
something like luck, some GMs don't like it because it's like, oh, you're gonna just play God with
Hmm.
points or something like that. But imagine like these are like God points, like little motes of divinity
Hmm.
that allow you to reshape what's happening. Too much for a person, spread out over an entire party to shoulder that weight. Y'all can carry those 3 motes together, and then it's just kind of like it it kind of goes out, whatever. Now, once again, I'm personifying making this thing potentially crazier than it needs to be, but
Hmm.
it could help people shape their own shared attunement item, where it's like, why is this something that needs to be whatever? It is either too much for a single person to bear, or it's just like I think I also think of it as almost like in order for it's like in order to get the magic circulating, it needs to be able to circulate more than just you. You know what I mean? Like it needs to flow through more than one thing, and it's just gonna like bounce, and that's how it can like achieve whatever thing it's trying to do. Something that it could be because of like some sort of crazy divinity, or it could be something more because just a wizard made something so dope that even they can't do it because it's just too much. Uh, but there's a lot of ways to explain it. It's like you. This is potentially spoiling for any of your people. You've thrown the idea of like them having their attunement slots and then a group shared attunement slot.
Right.
My savage self would have making them take an attunement slot. Like
Oh, like
I
every
would,
person
yeah,
can attune to this item, but
yeah, and
it can be attuned by multiple people.
yeah, because the way with the way I did the genie one,
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of like the lamp would be the cheat go around
Mm-hmm.
where it's like, oh, I can't do this with another slot. It's like, well, you put it in the lamp, and there's a way to get
Right.
to it at least. But
I
you are always have to be attuned to the lamp. But since
I
you've
I
planned,
think that
Mhm.
it's a like it depends on the power of the item to me. Like
Correct, yeah,
something like the lamp makes sense that like, oh, it can it can extend to everybody. But like everybody needs to be like buying in essentially. Everybody needs to be giving it that little bit of extra like attachment. Um so uh it's kind of a it's more powerful, so it needs that like extra level of attachment to you in order to extend those powers. With something like this where it's like there's only three, so if there's only 3 luck points in there per day, there's going to be days where people don't get them
hmm
because they went to other people, and then they have a attunement slot that's spent on like not having access to luck
yeah,
points.
hmm
So I do think that there would absolutely be items that would require attunement from you in addition to being a group attuned item. But you would want those to be like powerful items.
hmm So, because that was gonna be my thing of, I think what you've laid out for that is the perfect group attunement slot type of thing. I think the genie lamp would be
Mhm.
yeah, it's more, there's more kick into it that should take up a slot. This is something where it's taking up a slot that you share, but it's not, it may or may not affect you. What do you have any that you want to share that you think would take up those kind of slots?
That would take up
The
the
group
additional
slots.
and the group, or just the
Well,
group.
well, that's the thing. Would you introduce ones where it's like, this is a shared one? It's gonna
Hmm.
take up a real big boy slot.
Hmm.
It needs to be a minimum of two, as many as all of you. Like, because what
Hmm.
if it can be, it needs to be shouldered. The burden needs to be shouldered,
Hmm.
but maybe it doesn't need to be everybody because they would be sacrificing their own attunement slot. Oh,
Hmm.
that's not going to get me anything. I don't want to do it. It's like, well, guys, I need at least two of you. I need at least two of you to even
Hmm.
attempt to use this cool like flaming. Whoever attunes this, we get flaming swords. I don't
Right.
use swords. It's like, I need two of you. Just hold a knife. Hold a knife. It doesn't matter if you're casting spells. You'll look cool.
Right. Yeah.
I need this.
Yeah.
Um, do you have like, are you gonna do both shared real slots? Like, and what are your pipe dream ideas for the group slots?
I think to
I did throw out
me,
community fridge earlier, and that
yeah,
is
yeah,
just
yeah,
a
yeah.
like, it's just a cold storage bag of holding. Everybody can
I think for
access.
me the group attunement slots in my head, they are for like lesser benefits that
Hmm
would extend to like the whole party.
hmm
So things like the luck point where it's like anybody can pull from this, but
Mhm.
it is a limited resource. So I think that there would be like pretty much anything that would be a group attuned item would be charges or like have a set number of times it can be activated during a day, as opposed to just a like a long lasting effect.
Can I pitch one?
Yeah, go for it.
I just thought one right now because I know like you sometimes you just got to look around and then you see a thing,
Yeah,
give them phones. Make them have a shared plan, right?
that's hilarious.
Imagine the message spell's always like, "Oh, it's a spell you send that only you can hear."
Hmm.
All right. Or do you have some non-magic people in your party?
Hmm.
Okay. Everybody's going to be able to cast message.
Yeah.
Detriment. You got to write it out. You're going to get these little slabs. You have to write it out.
Right.
So it's going to require like a bonus action or something, even if, because we're just going to give them the benefit of you can quickly go on my way. Or, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? So that way it's not like, all right, I'm going to go let him know I'm over there, but then I'm going to go hit him. It's like, you can't text and do that attack at the same time. You know what I
Right.
mean? Some sort of
I
detriment.
I don't
Well,
think
wait,
you
here's,
you wouldn't be able to do it in combat. Because like
hold on. I could send a
message
text real fast. I could
you
send a real quick text.
you can send a text while I'm trying to hit you with a sword.
Yeah, I got voice to text. I can do it. Jeez. Like it's fine. Like, look, start counting to 6 right now.
1,
Hey,
2,
I'm sending you this text right
3,
now.
4,
All right, my
5,
phone didn't do it, so
6.
fair, you win this round, jerk. Because my phone registered too late. But you know what? You totally could. Everyone, you could send a text and then punch somebody in the face.
No.
But here's the charges part.
Mhm.
I made I brought it up one time where I made like a bangle that let anybody like send the message spell, but whenever the person receives it, they hear it in a loud, commanding like form and voice, like almost like a pit boss or like a construction worker is just like, "Hey, you,
Mhm.
blah blah." So even if you're like, "Hey, look, the guys are over there," they're gonna hear it's like, "The guys over there, you idiot," like that.
Mhm.
But it had the ability to sending
Right.
for free if you out loud say it in this loud voice. But just
Mhm.
imagine you go old school and you give them anytime minutes and certain charges of the sending spell
Yeah.
because it's always fun and it's always great to give them the ability to then we've talked about being able to like just check in with people
Mhm.
that normally they couldn't. And so instead of making it waste time, they go, it's like, all right, we can message each other, no problem. Should we see if Sam is still alive? We only got 5 texts. Are you sure? Like, do we want to use it right now? Yeah, I'm gonna use one of our shared anytime minutes and just
Mhm.
go like, "Hey, are you okay?" And the person just like maybe it just cuts into their head. Have you ever? Oh, this is something I don't know if you've ever done. Have you ever texted a landline?
No.
This was something I don't think it exists anymore, but it's something
Mhm.
I accidentally did. I texted my cousin, and it went to his like he had 2 numbers. It went to the house phone,
Mhm.
and my aunt like she was like, What?" And then she passed it over to him real quick, and he's like, "This," and it's just like, "I don't know, dog. Maybe you should." Blah, blah. And it was just essentially it voice to texted
Yeah.
my message to them. But
Yeah.
imagine like with no intention, like no whatever, just they hear your voice going like, "Maybe you should go here and probably get this. Please don't die. We
Yeah, you
love you,
can't you
please."
can't you absolutely have to sign those texts cuz they will have no idea who sent it.
Because it is shared.
Mhm.
Exactly. But something where it's like they share a pool of
Yeah.
communication.
Mhm.
Maybe it's like I love adding like the only homebrew spell that I try to shoehorn into any one of my games is I call it like Insta Portrait, and
Mhm.
the cantrip is like you take a small piece of parchment and hold it in your hands like this, and then kind of like magically charge your fingers, and it like etch a sketches a picture, and you could just take a
Mhm.
picture of something. And I try and introduce Polaroids or pictures in my game,
Yeah.
but just imagine like you gave them fucking bones.
Imagine, it's like a wizard named Verizon, who is like makes these magic communication boxes, and there's just like different price points. You want the basic one. It's got like a preloaded set number of minutes on it. It's a track phone. It doesn't have a camera. Like it can only send like text messages. It can't do anything else. If you upgrade, you can get the ones that can also just cast sending, and you can talk to people. If you upgrade it again, you can also you can take pictures and send it to people.
Imagine sending an image.
Yeah. Oh, my party has tried
Like,
to do it repeatedly.
Instead of sending 25 words, it's just like, we need to tell the governor that
Mhm.
his advisor's the one doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Sending it, and that picture's gonna be worth literally 1,000 words.
Right.
Because it'll be like, I had an image of this, and it's like, yeah, look, it's right here,
Yeah.
saved on my magic box.
You're
And
you're being given like visions, essentially.
But that's gonna take up like because if you've ever used like when you only had a certain number of text
Mhm.
messages, I'm pretty sure that pictures used up more than one message,
Mm.
or they used up data at that point.
Right.
So if it's like we could send messaging 5 times before
Mhm.
this needs to recharge, a picture is going to take up 3.
Yeah.
Something where it's like it's using a resource heavily, and you have to make it that somebody can accidentally or intentionally, I don't want to say screw with the party, but it's the boon of us sharing this. Is not we all got this. It's
Mhm.
we got this cool thing. It might be used like, and then I don't have it, so it's just like, it has to be managed. And
Mhm.
if it isn't, what that situation might impact,
Mhm.
what situation's that's gonna create.
You anytime you open it up to make a text, you have to make a dexterity check, and if you roll a 1, you accidentally open the internet app and it starts burning through minutes rapidly. You have to make a dex save to like close it out as fast as possible. I like
Yeah,
I like the
yeah.
thought of the thing the party is attuned to there is the phone plan. And you can
And their
have
phone.
more people
I would,
attuned to the plan.
I would make it that the plan is shared.
Uh-huh.
That's the shared attunement, and the way you described the like you described like the tiers, essentially like the plan tiers or the
Mhm.
phone tiers. I think that it would be a fun opportunity to give them a magic item that scales with them,
Mhm.
because they could just get, hey, look, this little I use I always say like a slab of obsidian.
Mhm.
I used a slab of obsidian one time as like they had to go to like essentially like a Best Buy, and they were getting a slab of obsidian, and it was essentially like a giant flat screen TV, because he would use it to project images on. But
Mhm.
tiny slabs of obsidian
Mhm.
that can either be upgraded, their functionality can be whatever, because then like apps are just spells.
Mhm.
So then you can just let them go like, oh, you can, you're giving the non-magic people the opportunity to like, oh, I shelled out a lot of money, or I'm using an attunement slot. My thing can cast identify by taking a picture of it.
Yeah.
They're
You've got
literally Google
the
lensing it.
Google Lens, yeah.
Exactly. But it's something where it's like you give them, it's like, here's a thing.
I
This
love
lets you just talk.
that. I love the concept of it being a like an app store where like
Yeah.
but you have to go it's a physical store that you have to
that's
go to,
funny.
and some like little gremlin mage is just like
I imagine it.
and just like casts the magic into your item.
I imagine it very similar to our Build-A-Bear workshop,
Yes,
where it's
yeah.
like it moves.
They're
so
all
it's
over
just
the
like,
place. Yeah.
yo guys, I want to get a new thing for our slabs. He's not in this city. We have to go another city over, but
Right.
he currently is over there.
According to
stationed
Find
up.
My Friends.
Yeah, it's an Instagram feed, but it's only the shop
Mhm.
essentially. Like it's like, and he ate a parfait earlier.
Yeah.
But
It's
like
only the shop, but in the sense that like it's his account, and so like anything he posts goes on there.
Oh my god, don't get me started.
I love
like the group share is just the capability to send a message, and maybe a big one if they need to.
Mhm.
But that can be extended to, well, if you want to sacrifice one of your attunement slots,
Mhm.
you can do a little more with it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you're just sharing the shared messages and the shared
Right. It's just
whatever's.
messaging if it's just the base like group
Yeah, but
attunement.
and tell me if I'm just shoehorning in like this baseline rules, but in my head, it's been shared resource,
Mhm.
potentially shared resource that can run out before everybody gets to use it.
Mhm.
And like, the 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 resource management of like attunement slots.
Mhm.
Like, what are the base requirements, or like what are the baselines for something like this? You know what I mean?
Sure.
You can't just make it like, oh yeah, they have a wand that has an extension cord, and if you
Mhm.
plug it into other wands, you all can cast fireball. I think that's a little too much.
But it is
That goes
really
into
funny.
well, we've
I'm
been talking about
picturing
this, but
I'm picturing a party standing with what looks like the like the icicle Christmas lights that some houses will
Mhm.
have. I'm picturing a party standing there with what looks like just a strand of icicle Christmas lights, but they're all
Mhm.
just different wands and they're all just standing in a line and just like shoot off a spell all at the same time.
I think it would be very like, because we've talked about wanting to do like doing different magic systems. So
Yeah.
I've been wanting to do like a coven system where it's like, oh hey look, if we both cast this second level spell, we only use one spell slot type of thing. Something where it's like,
Mhm.
hey, we ease. It's like this idea that magic is heavy. It
Right.
has a physical like dimension to it,
Right.
and there's a strain, I mean, whether it's mental, spiritual, physical, whatever it is, there's some
Es-
strain.
like giving the help action with
Yes.
casting spells where it's like you have access to this spell, awesome. We like hold hands and we both cast it at the same time, and
Hmm.
only one of us has to actually expend the spell slot for it, um because like we're working together on it. That's
so
cool.
I so like that's going into like a whole like
That
different
feels like a good like shared attunement item of
well,
like
that's it started as that, and then it kind of is coming back to what's a group shared thing.
mhm,
I would love to have a group of non-magic casters,
mhm.
and they just have the equivalent of a magic router, like a spell book that is a magic router. Hey, y'all, you need to
Preparing
attune.
spells in the morning is just downloading spells.
Yeah. And all of you need to like put this flash drive into your weapon,
Yeah,
into whatever it is, whatever. Like, imagine the spell book, I'm calling it a router, but imagine it
router's very
as,
funny.
but yeah, you make like a shared character that is the same level spellcaster
Mhm,
as everybody.
mhm,
And so it's like, oh, we got a party of four. We got a barbarian, a monk, a fighter, and a rogue.
mhm.
And then you make like a fourth level wizard. And then it's like, okay, what are we adding to this thing? And then it has the right number of spell slots, but they can all use it. And then you could have the fun flavoring of like, okay, my
This is our digital cleric. I save you.
well, that's funny. But that's another dynamic, because what if anybody multi-classes, or what if you end up getting
Mhm,
somebody that can cast magic? It's like, all right, look, it's like, oh, these are the shared spells. This is the
mhm.
the ones that are in the router. Look, torrent mine. I can't get to you.
Right.
Take my cure wounds.
Mhm.
Take my spell
Do
slot.
it like a
And
do it like a
you turn,
Steam
yeah.
shared library where you're like like if you've shared your library to somebody, only one
Hmm.
of you can play that at a time. So if
Hmm.
you like send it to somebody else, like they have it now until like they
Yeah,
until you
yeah,
take a long rest
yeah.
essentially and then it
It's
resets.
yeah. But it's like, all right, look, I'll send you my cure wounds. Just I can't get to you. But then it's like, well, now our cleric doesn't have cure wounds right now because the
Mhm.
rogue had to use it because he wasn't too close. But like a thing where it's shared amongst them. Oh, cool. We all get fun access to spells.
Mhm.
Hey, us that do have magic, can share it,
Hmm.
but like, I guess there should be that voluntary, like, I'm checking off almost like it's another, resource management type thing, but like, oh, I've marked off that all my spells are shareable. So
Hmm.
somebody could pull one, or like, I'm all right, Cure Wounds is shared, but you know, be wise about it, because if you take it from me, like,
Right.
that's you know what I mean? But it
Yeah.
like,
And
and
I would feel like if you like borrowed somebody's spell, it's now using your spell modifier, not theirs.
yes, I would
Because it
think
is
because
it is
that's a
you
proficiency
casting it
thing. Yeah,
now.
it's a fun throw up, like toss up, where you said something about like taking the spell from them, because what
Hmm.
I was gonna say is like, all right, I have 3 spell slots. Jerry cast a spell. He used one of my spell slots,
Mm,
but I still have access to the spell. But he like took a charge from me.
sure.
There's a fun argument to be made for using the spell slot and feeling that kind of downloaded from you,
Hmm.
and you losing it.
Hmm.
It's kind of interesting, because if it's like in the shared thing, you don't know how to do it. You don't know how to do it. You didn't know how to do it before.
Hmm.
If it's a wizard, a cleric, a druid, it's in them. So
Hmm.
it's
It
interesting to think of that sealed off in some
it
way, or
feels like
forgotten.
something where if you were taking the like the spell slot, like somebody else has a spell slot, you're out of spell slots, but you have a spell you want to cast.
Hmm.
Then the person you're taking the spell slot from needs to have that spell as well. In order for you to be able to
Mm,
like take their spell slot and use it.
mm,
Um,
that's cool. Yeah,
the
you can
if
route.
you
You can.
are
I'll route you a spell slot. Take one of
Mhm.
mine. Yeah, that's
if
a
you
shared. Yeah.
essentially like they're half casting the spell to you.
Mm,
If you are if you wanted to like cast something that you didn't have access to, somebody could give you like access to a spell that they have. It does take your spell slot and they temporarily lose access to that spell because you've like the information on how to cast it has moved to you. Like it I think that could be a very fun system to play with. It has the I you said something that I think is very interesting and I haven't like played around with in my head enough, which is that magic is heavy. And that is
hmm
such an interesting dynamic to think about of like it's not this ethereal energy, like you are
hmm
having to expend the energy to do the thing. And it kind of did you ever read the Aragon series?
No, I know
So
I know of it. I have
yeah,
understanding of it, but I have not read
i
it myself.
I loved Aragon. And one of the things that I really liked about the Aragon like magic system was that Aragon is a magic system where the energy to do whatever you want to do with magic is the same as doing it physically. So you have to expend the energy that you would have spent doing it physically to do it with magic.
Mm,
And so there's this whole like subsection of like Aragon casting, which is that you are learning like the words in that magic language to be able to very accurately describe what you want to do. And they give an example at one point of like you want to build a like a fire, right? You want to make fire. There's two ways you can do that. You can like know all of the different words that are required and all of the like different things that go into creating fire and like do do all of those words to make it as simple as possible for that casting, or you can say fire. But if you say fire, like fire is going to like just manifest. So it's going to take the energy from you that would have been required to make fire just appear. As opposed to like knowing the words to like build up the friction, like rub like knowing the
okay.
science behind it to be able to like go through and list those words. Um, which I thought was very, very interesting. I've always been very compelled by like magic takes more energy from you than just just a random like, oh well, I have spell slots, so I'll just cast my spell slots, and when I'm out of spell slots, it doesn't really do anything to me other than that I don't
Mhm.
have spells left. Like if you have used up all your spell slots in Aragon, like
Mhm.
you're done. Like you have no energy left to pull from. And it's kind of what I tried to kind of like take inspiration from that for the Hash Browns and Hooligans when I was running that,
Mhm.
by doing that sort of like you pull from your life force
Mhm.
to like do things with magic. Um, but there's something to like magic being depicted as a more tangible force. That's not just the mystic arcanum. Uh,
There's a children's series that I think has been canceled now, but uh, uh, it was there was it's gonna kill me because now I can't. The boy finds the book of, I think it's physics, right? It's like the book of physics, and he's like he doesn't understand what it is, but when he looks at it, the first like equation or something like that in there like just explains friction in such a
mhm,
way where his brain he just kind of mumbles it,
mhm.
and then he just knows he can kind of turn it off, and he thinks
Ooh.
about it and he's just like and he starts saying it, and he turns friction off at the
Mhm,
bottom of his feet and he slips around and he's like, "Oh, what?" And then after practicing he turns it on just the tips of his toes
mhm,
and turns it off on the rest of his feet, and he
mhm,
essentially makes it so he can skate everywhere.
mhm.
But the whole series, that the fundamental foundations of like all of science and
Yeah.
nature and existence are boiled down to a book, and that book has a guardian, and the previous guardian of physics dropped it, left it for him, whatever it is, so
Mhm.
he's now the guardian of like physics.
That's interesting. I
And
like that.
he can only learn so many spells because he's young and he can't
Mhm.
m- comprehend everything.
He has to
uh
understand it in order to use it.
Correct.
Yeah.
But like it's a fun children's series.
Yeah.
He understands. He does the physics one, and he gives his friends ones where it's just like, okay, look here, and he teaches the is that momentum? I think he teaches the momentum one to one of the kids, and it's like the kid essentially gains super speed, and he
Nice.
teaches electricity to
That's
his
really cool.
one friend,
I
and
like
she
that.
can like essentially it's like a battery.
Yeah.
Uh, but like the person that is steals nature and the one person's trying to get them all, that's the big bad type of thing.
Mhm.
The next series is the biology book, and somebody have to go find that book and save it and whatnot. But the sense of it doesn't always need to be like just like this incomprehensible, it just does it
Right.
because of whatever, is there's a logic, there's an understanding,
I
there's a
I
thing
love a
that is
magic
doing the
system
whole
that
thing. Yeah.
like it it has the ability to hand wave things and go like it works that way because of magic, but also like there is a science to the magic, and it makes like wizards much more interesting to me because it's not just a like you're sitting in your tower and you're reading books until you understand how to cast wish. It is like you are having to study and like try and crack the formulas and stuff like that to understand how magic works to be able to do that thing. It's also why like I think it's so the dynamic between a sorcerer and a wizard is very funny to me. In one of my groups, we have a sorcerer and a wizard who are like they were raised as sisters. So they
Hmm.
were like they went to magic school together, and the one of them is like incredibly naturally gifted, but also is like has to put in the work and like studies nonstop and like just is constantly going to the books and like had to study for hours for all of their tests. And then the other one is a sorcerer and just kind of like can do whatever. Like they just kind of they are naturally gifted. They can do all of their like magic. They don't really have to study. It's just like there. And so I think that the if you enhance the level of like understanding that it takes to
Hmm.
cast magic, it makes sorcerers so much more interesting to me, and warlocks as well, of like they're people that don't understand how they're doing what they're doing. It comes from somewhere else. They don't have to understand. It's just something that they can do. And then a wizard is like, you just like reshaped reality around you. Like, how did you do that? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I just thought about it real hard. And it's like, how are you able to do that if you don't understand what it was?
For sorcerers, the logic I was, because they have like I think it's their other proficiencies in Constitution. So I always said, like, you need Constitution always involves like your body, your hardiness, like, you know, your faculties and stuff like that. I imagine it's like literally like always gut reaction
Right.
and physical backlash.
It's a lot of instinct. Yeah.
Yeah, but like there is like, I have to make my hands kind of burn to the point of not hurting, but so I can burn other things.
Right.
And it's like, it doesn't hurt them, but it's like I have to really do things to my body
Right.
to
It's
do
like
it, and I have to mess with that whole.
Yeah, it's like a octopus that has like a chameleon ability.
Yeah.
Where like it doesn't have to think about like, I would like to look like a rock. Like
Correct, yeah.
it just they know that that's the most like safe thing for them to do, and they just go rock. If you're out there and you haven't watched videos of octopi just doing cool things, they're fascinating. Every once in a while I get into a rabbit hole of just researching weird things, and I'm like, man, I wish I was more interested in school.
I wish this book, I found the series. It's called Simon Bloom. Children's
Oh, I
series.
think I've heard of that.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. I got real sad because it was like a book. Then maybe the second book came out. I'm not sure, and the third one was only an ebook that was through like Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and like that was it. And then they just kind of like let it die. And I was like, this is how you would have got kids into science, by making them cool superpowers.
That's really cool.
Like, but
as a whole, I think, because we've kind of danced around the like, okay, well, what is required, what is restricted, what is like for a party attuned item.
Yeah.
My instinct would be like a lot of that would be up to GM discretion of like if a GM decides that they want to give their party an item that lets all of them like use fire breath, or like all of them can like get a plus whatever to their hit points or whatever, like they absolutely could. If they're like, I want to give my party like, I want to make it so all of my party has like radiant weapon damage, but I don't want them to I don't want them to have to like replace their current items or anything like that. They absolutely could. A lot of it comes down to what the GM is looking for, and I think that's what is so compelling to me about party attunement, is that it is something that allows the GM to be like, this is a boon, a benefit that I want to give to my party, and this gives me an easy in-world way to rationalize it. Like I've talked before about the fact that like the undead are a very big problem in my homebrew world, and like there's a lich and army of undead and stuff like that. If a party is going to go fight that, a big problem that they have to overcome is figuring out like, okay, well, we need like radiant damage. We need to be able to do radiant damage. And so like I've had parties that have delayed progressing their story by sessions because they're like, we have to go to like this town, we have to like try and buy magic items that are going to be like radiant, and you can hand wave it and be like, yeah, the magic store absolutely has like radiant weapons. Or you can be like, oh yeah, you like, if you're looking to go like kill undead, the Temple of Life has a charm that will like, the party can attune to this, and like as long as you are within like 50 feet of each other. The like all of your weapons will just have this divine blessing on them and do like radiant damage on top of it. The there's so many uh there's so many opportunities to give your players just that little extra oomph without it being crazy. It also, like, I don't know if you've ever run into this situation, but like especially early on in campaigns, like that level 3 to 5 area,
Mm-hmm.
if players are like, if the characters are going and doing like a quest to we're gonna go like stop this thing, and then we bring it like we kobolds have been attacking the flocks of the towns, so we go and we take out the kobolds, we come back to town, and the town is like, oh, thank you so much, here is a magic sword as a thank you. And it's like, okay, one player gets to benefit from that.
Yeah.
And like I've had many situations where I'll give my players like, oh yeah, the bandit captain has like a magic greatsword or something like that, and the party looks at their sheets and they're like, none of us are proficient in greatswords, and it's like, I guess you can sell it. Like the having a way to give a benefit to the party that is extended to everyone. It can be a smaller benefit because it is extended to everybody. And it goes to everybody. You don't have to worry about them like switching up their equipment if they don't want to or anything like that. Like I've had players that have kept the same like sword or armor or whatever for levels and levels and levels just because they like it a lot. And they're like, I just think this sword is cool. And I'm like, it's no longer like a super powerful weapon for you. Like there are other weapons that are better for you in the game now. And they're like, but I like this one. And it's like, okay, cool.
That's when I try to upgrade them at least, so that way they
right.
like I feel like
if you don't have a way for the players to upgrade the equipment that they do form attachments to, then there's no reason for them to form attachments to things, and you want them to. Like you want that situation at like the end of like 2-year-long campaign where the party is like, we've completed our story and we're retiring, and they're like, I hang up like my twin scimitars Fang and Talon, and like I hang them up for like the next generation of adventurers. Like you want them to make those things that become artifacts. Like the reason that artifacts like the sword of Cass or what's the dwarven one, Axe of the Dwarvish Lords and stuff like that, like the reason that those items become artifacts is that they are like powerful items that have like taken on elements of their past.
There's a story.
They've grown and changed. And so I think by giving your and that's kind of its own thing about like upgrading, being able to upgrade items. But having a way to give players a reward that benefits everybody, and they don't have to worry about like, okay, well, we were rewarded with another weapon, which means that the wizard of the party is out like again. Like it allows you to give those rewards more frequently. And then they can like swap things out. If they're like, oh, this thing, this like blessing that gives us all like a D4 of radiant on top of our current stuff is great, but like we're not fighting undead anymore. We're not fighting any like demons or anything like that. Like we're going to do this other quest line, and it would be way more helpful to just like boost our armor class or like make us stealthier or like give us some extra magic or something like that.
Literally anything else type of thing.
Right. They have the way to kind of like swap those things out. It just gives you an extra way to do that. Is there anything from your perspective that you're like, I wouldn't do X. Like I wouldn't have this thing be a benefit that could be extended to the full group.
I went up to the line earlier with I like using inspiration and luck sometimes where it can be used like against me. I like to
Mhm.
say like I had a GM that did this one time and he's like, oh, if you want to use your inspiration to re-roll a roll, you can. If you want to make me re-roll, you
100%.
can make me
Yeah.
re-roll. And when you were describing your luck item, you know, I was like, oh, they can use 2 points and they can kind of like influence something else.
Mhm.
You should not like, you can make it so they can kind of like take a resource from one another, like in the sense that it's shared and it's like, oh, you're hogging all the points, you know, and then that,
Mhm.
once again, that's going to create a dynamic. You don't want it to be made that they can be used against
Right.
somebody else. You don't want to make anybody feel trapped. You don't want to make anybody feel that it's like, hey, I have no say
Mhm.
in how this is whatever. So doing something in limitations like if there is like an added boon to like the shared item, like, oh, I get to use
Mhm.
double this or I get to route this, it's something that can't be used back to back.
Mhm.
It needs to be like and like you're almost forcing somebody else to get a turn,
Mhm.
or it needs to just like, you know, some sort of limitation so that way it can't be monopolized.
Sure.
Because like any sort of fun thing, once one person figures out like the funness of it,
Mhm.
they're going to want to do it over and over again, but then nobody else gets to do it.
Right.
It's just
Right.
like I wanted to use 2 points to make the big bad trip and fall on his face,
Mhm.
and you keep doing it. You're like, you know, it's not
Right.
like it's one thing if like, oh, I have swing the big sword. I'm usually the one that does the finishing move
Mhm.
just because I'm the big one that's there. But it's just like you weren't even there. You just used the 2 luck points from the back to make it
Mhm.
happen. So it's like
Yeah.
let somebody else
Yeah.
use a thing. So make it something where it is like if it does give any sort of moments to shine, to
Mhm.
do some to expend something or other, make sure there's limitations in place where it can't be abused
Yeah.
at the expense of everybody else.
I think that's a great
Can it
point.
be abused in the sense of like, yo, guys, we keep using it in the first 15 minutes.
Mhm.
That's funny. That's funny. It's like because we all do it. Everybody they know they're never going to learn. They use all 3 of them right at the beginning to do something funny.
Mhm.
Okay, they've made that decision though. It wasn't unilaterally like, you know, oh, every time we sit down, so and so does this, so
Mhm.
none of us get to do this now.
Mhm.
So it's like, well, then what's the point? It's
Yeah.
like it's now the thing where it becomes a more widespread version of you defeated this thing. Here's a sword. The wizard doesn't get doesn't get to
Right.
enjoy it.
Right.
Well,
It's a
we have group
different
attunement.
issue.
Yeah, we have group attunement. This is cool. Well, only so and so gets to enjoy this thing.
Right. Yeah.
There
Like
needs to be
the
yeah.
same person keeps using it every day, and so nobody else
Yeah.
is getting the benefits
So
of it.
like
Yeah.
the blanket, it can be used by everybody. If it's not, whatever, a beneficial something or other
Mhm.
that can be used and it
Putting
has
some limitations and some
some
precautions in
limitation on it.
place. Yeah.
But in such a way where it's like, even if it's like even if it's something where it's like so and so's the one that always wants to do
Mhm.
blank, at least you made the limitation where they couldn't do it again.
Mhm.
Like, oh, we have a free pop of cure wounds and you're always using it. Even if he's calling for it, maybe at least somebody else is forced to do it. And then
Mhm.
they have to either deny it, work its way into it. So at least they're feeling like they're, you know,
Yeah.
doing it. Like I think through the shared plan thing that we were talking about earlier,
Mhm.
sharing like attributes or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like like I've talked about like not doing the help action before, and when you want to help somebody, you share your
Yeah.
proficiency
Yeah.
bonus
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
something. So it's like, imagine that's just like, hold on, I'm gonna put on airdrop or quick share. I'm gonna
Mhm.
share my goodness at sleight of hand, and then kind
Sure.
of like, boop. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
It's
could
kind of like,
imagine like a set of like circlets or something like that
mhm,
that like attunes to everybody else's, and then
mhm,
you can like use your like you can give your ability, like your knowledge of how to do that thing to somebody else.
mhm,
um the I've always liked that. I also really like the whatchamacallit, the phones. I think that's so funny.
Well, yeah. No, I was just thinking that
There's so many
for
apps
like,
you could bring in on
well,
that.
even like our phones have like a quick share feature. iPhones have had AirDrop for forever, where it's
Mhm,
like if they go like open, anybody can drop something on their phone, and it's like a quick share, like via Wi-Fi, Bluetooth type of thing. And now Androids, we got it on ours. And
mhm,
just imagine like I love. I don't think it was an all the time thing. I feel like I've seen this more recently editions of D&D, where it's
mhm,
like you can do XYZ up to the number of your proficiency bonus.
mhm.
Just
Yeah,
imagine
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like, all right, yo, up to the number of your proficiency bonus, you can share a skill. You can share a
Mm,
proficiency. All right. It's just like, yo, you're gonna go do it. As long as you're within 15 feet of me, boom, your sleight of
mhm.
hand's good.
Yeah.
Like your next sleight of hand, I got you.
And
I used one of my
if you've
3.
decided that if you're deciding that like that's a something that will get overpowered too quickly, you just go, "Oh, it's a like the party is the same level, so like as they are moving through,
Mm-hmm.
like they're going to have the same proficiency bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Just make it a like each day they have as a party up to that proficiency bonus that they can like
That's
share
good
that
too.
of
Yeah. Make
like
that shared. Yeah.
here is like I hey man, I know that you are bad at stealth and we really need to be quiet. Let's use one of our points
Mm-hmm.
to like you can use the rogue stealth. Um
Yep.
like it yeah, it
And
it makes
we said
things a
like
little
the
bit
whole
more
difference,
versatile.
and we said the difference between like group attunement and personal attunement. Then it's like, all right, you want to use it independently or whatever, that's going
Mhm.
to start using your resources at that point.
Mhm.
You're upgrading your phone, that's taking your extra attunement slot, but it lets that one person spam it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yo, they're always shoehorning in their persuasion skill, but they're just giving it a lot. They're not
Right.
the ones that are doing it. It
Yeah.
lets the other person still do it. They get to use a fun, cool toy mechanic, and everybody gets the benefit of the
I
shared
think
attunement
I think
because they're connected.
persuasion is one of those ones where I'm like, I more than any other skill, I love the concept of persuasion being able to and like any of the charisma based skills. I like
Hmm.
the idea of being able to share that to a party. Um just because like there are so many situations where like a lot of people who play bards because they want to be the face, but not every bard wants to
Hmm.
be the face.
Hmm.
And sometimes there's a bard in the party, but there's also somebody else in the group who really wants to be able to like do the face position.
Hmm.
Or they like, I've had many situations where it's like, okay, the bard is going to talk, but it really would make more sense for this other person to like take the
Hmm.
lead here. Like we're going into the thieves guild and we're going to be doing like negotiations with one of the thieves guild people. Like the rogue should really take the lead on this, but like the rogue is
Correct.
not a charisma character.
Yep.
Like having a situation where the bard is like, okay, I'm going to coach you through this, and like you just go for it. Like that's very very interesting, and just leads to more shared time at the table.
Hmm.
Um, something I just thought of that I want to toss at you. Um, what do you think of adding secondary benefits to magic items that become group attuned things? And I'll give you an example. So what I mean here is, party completes a quest, they get a like a magic sword. The paladin
Hmm.
takes that sword because they're like the martial character of the party. They're gonna take that sword. They get the benefits of that sword. But what if
Hmm.
that sword also has the secondary like group benefit of like it also if you're within 20 feet of it, your weapon also gets a +1, or something like that, where the weapon like extends a little bit of its benefit to the party, so that like yes, the person who is wielding the sword gets all of the benefits of the sword, but
Hmm.
like everybody in the party is benefited for them having it.
I think that that is the the lower denomination Captain Planet version, then, where it becomes that the thing is whatever it is, and
Mhm.
either more is put into it or more is unlocked, it's too heavy now. Now it needs to be shared. That
Ooh,
would be a fun
interesting.
instance. That would be a fun instance of I need one or two of you to be in on this item with me.
Right.
That way it's you run into the thing of like dope sword, the wizard doesn't care, but
Mhm.
I'm a fighter, I got this sword. Yo, rogue and barbarian, you want to get in on this?
Mhm.
Once this thing gets juiced up, as long as you're X amount where near me, you guys are gonna get a D4 or D6 of fire damage on your hits
Mhm.
because it's gonna be radiating out. I'm gonna get
Oh,
that big
I
juicy.
like the
I like,
concept of like a flame tongue scimitar or
yeah,
something like that that
yeah,
also like ignites allies' swords when
yeah.
nearby.
It's too much for me to handle,
Mhm.
but you guys it's almost like maybe breaking off a piece of that Kit Kat and attaching to your things. Once I turn this on, you're gonna feel your thing get hot and heavy,
Mhm.
but now I can handle this.
Mhm.
And then if
I
you want to make
I like that a lot.
if you want to make the detriment and when you go both ways, where it's just like one person could have something real crazy, but unless you have something that's like a ball hog type of situation,
Mhm.
you don't want to like they shouldn't do it. But essentially, if you try to do this yourself,
Mhm.
you will be taking and I would just do
Well,
something ludicrous. Like
it
you would take a 3d8 damage if you tried to activate this
right.
by yourself. Give it to your friends and then you can use this how I've laid out
Mhm.
and they get an extra something. So it's like why wouldn't they at this
Right.
point? Why wouldn't they share it?
Well, and you could with using the example of like a flame tongue thing, if
Mhm.
you're like this is a very volatile flame tongue sword,
Yeah.
and so the flame is just too powerful, like it becomes unwieldy to try and attack with because there's
Mhm.
too much fire coming off of it.
Yeah.
Also it's like if it's not a like if those benefits aren't given to other people, it also like it does more damage, but it's harder to swing and also is
It's
treated as
unwieldy.
if
It's like a
heat
double-edged.
metal has
Yeah.
been cast on it. So like
Mm.
you are going to take damage every round while it's
Yep.
being used, unless you like allow some of that heat to be absorbed into other things,
Yep.
which gives you like you'll have situations where like the tiefling or the red dragonborn or something like that is like, oh,
I'll try to tank it.
I'll
Yeah.
just tank that like fire damage because I'll like have it in exchange for being able to do like a bunch of fire damage, and that's
Mhm.
fine. Like that is a way to use the item, but it has that extra ability of like we're going to
Yeah.
like you have the ability to open it up to other people.
Yeah.
Other people
So
can like jump in on that and also be
the
benefited.
yeah, like definitely like it's you can throw it out there where it's like there's group attunement and then there's shit there's that's the thing that there's attunement, individual attunement, there is a group attunement, we're all in on this.
Hmm.
And then, it's like, oh, there's a car, a cell phone plan, and then there is like, I don't know, a home security system, and then another thing. And they're gonna have to decide, are we gonna like drop the car? Are we gonna
Oh
drop the
man,
security system?
the idea of like a security system of like we have a portable security system that we like bring
Hmm.
with us and set up in like every tavern room we stay in and all of that.
It's just
And
an
then
alarm.
like
It's literally
it
casting an alarm
yeah.
spell. Like it's a box. It's a
Mhm.
box you place by the door of
Mhm.
an enclosed room. You
Mhm.
set the code. You all know the code. You all know the code when you come in and out. You put the
Mhm.
code in, and it's an alarm spell that goes off. Everybody there. No one has to cast it, and it's literally as simple as
Or
boom. But it's a shared
even
attunement.
even without the code, it's a shared attunement, so it knows who you are,
Hmm.
so you can come
Yep.
and go freely. But anybody else, everybody is immediately alerted to it.
Yep. Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, you can do a whole world of things with it.
But yeah,
Um,
so it's yeah, you can essentially like do individual attunement, group attunement, and then we've already laid out like do the whole benefit for everybody, a
mhm,
resource that can be shared but needs limitations, and
mhm,
then a shared attunement one where what I would do is it might be a fun way to if you don't feel like homebrewing anything,
mhm,
I would say that if you want to give somebody something really good at a low level,
yeah,
like think of like it's a +1 sword, but the 1 is fire damage, right? And if
mhm,
you want to turn it into a flame tongue sword, which is more powerful,
right,
you need someone else to take the heat. So they got to break off pieces of whatever. So it's like, oh, hey, look, you put this ring on your dagger, your battle axe.
Mm-hmm.
I have a +1 sword, but if I want to activate this flame tongue and get like the full, I don't know if it's like +3 sword or it's a plus whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but I can do that the number of time I have proficiency bonus, and when I do it, y'all get +1 on your thing because they're
Would
taking off some
you
of that heat.
would you do that in a situation where you're like, okay, this is just a group attuned thing where like everybody gets the like the benefit of this? Or would you do it where like somebody else has to actually give up an attunement slot in order to like take that? Because
I
to
would say
me, I think
no.
requiring one of the
That's one of
base
those. That's
attunement
one of
slots, the
yeah.
benefit would have to be real good to them in
No,
order
no.
to do it.
I think that the base attunement slot would be for the person.
Right.
So they're like using an attunement slot for just a +1 weapon, and they're
Mhm.
like, oh, at first you're like, oh, that's not that great,
Mhm.
but I can turn this into a big old honking flaming sword
Right.
3 or 4 times. And then the other people, it becomes one of those magic items that it's just like the ring of water walking, the
Mhm.
slippers of spider. It's just a magic item that has this item. They don't need to attune to it,
Mhm.
but they are carrying that weight. Because even if you like do like a ring of fireball, I mean a wand of fireballs, it's not attuned. It might not be attuned,
Sure.
but like either way, there's backlash. So you're
Right. You're
carrying
giving
this wheat, you're
you're
using this thing.
you're making an item that wouldn't normally be an attuned item into an attuned item, and the
Hmm.
attunement bonus is that it extends it to other people as well.
Yes. So like
Um,
the extra would be that, the other people don't, but they still need somebody to get in on it.
mhm.
And so if it's like, well, look, I'm a druid, I don't have any metal weapons, and
Mhm.
I'm a wizard, I use a wand.
Mhm.
What am I going to attach this to? Then it's like, come on, I need 2 people, just put it on your stick or something.
Well,
Come on.
and
But
you
like
could
that's the
be
whole yeah.
like, okay, you're a wizard. Your wand takes on this like this thing. Any damage you deal from like spells also gets that added like fire damage on top of it.
That's what I would do. I would make it so there is like
If it's a
there's
damage
always
bonus, you just make it a flat damage bonus. If you're dealing
correct. Yeah.
damage, you deal like
They
that extra
they
bonus.
they eroded that where it's like, oh, if it's a distinction between like what do you call it, like a spell attack and a physical attack, sometimes it's just if you make an attack roll.
Mhm.
Because then it was like, all right, if I have spells or I like make this attack roll, but it's technically a melee attack. No, they just changed it to like, I think it was like Bardic Inspiration was like, if you're making a roll added to a type thing,
Right.
that's what I would do.
Which I
I would
think
do if you're
is the
adding
better
something.
way to do that. Like if
Yeah,
you are it
yeah,
it it really bothers me when things have like this is a benefit to like only one person in the party because they're the only one that is
hmm
using that thing. Like it forces the party to either become more like uh more similar to each other where like they're all consolidating their skill sets into one to get that benefit,
hmm
or they don't get that benefit and they stay like different, which I always prefer a more like uh diversified party of like you want different skill sets and different abilities in there. I like that a lot. I think we've covered a lot of stuff. We've kind of gone all over the place on it, but I think we've covered a lot of really good stuff here. Do you have any like last thoughts on this topic before we wrap up?
Uh, I know GMs. Um, we create things on the fly a lot.
Mhm.
Group and shared attunement items should be ones that are not thrown out on the fly.
No, they should be thought through.
Because and it's not even like so much, oh, they're going to abuse it and mess up my campaign. I just really see the instance of it being accidentally
Mhm.
abused towards like, oh, this person doesn't get to have fun, oh, this person didn't get to do something or whatever because you didn't put that thought out of like, oh, I didn't think of them being able to set things on fire, and now the wizard's trapped in it, like something, something very specific where it's like, I didn't see how this could XYZ take this from someone or put somebody in a position that they didn't want to be in,
Mm-hmm.
or creating like oh man, they're gonna, argue occasionally over resources is one thing. You don't want to make something they're gonna fight over
Right.
to the point where it's just like it's gonna be like conflict inducing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that it's as fun as the idea is, unless you'd have to spin it in a way where it's like, oh, this is something that's gonna grow and upgrade. So like, yeah,
Right.
it's just attunement.
It's
It's
definitely
just
something
attuned
that
together.
needs like thought put into ahead of time
Yeah.
before you implement.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would just be my thing of like, really, if you want to do the idea, awesome. Just make sure you don't do it like off the cuff type of
Yeah.
thing, because it's there's a lot of harm that could potentially happen that can be avoided. That's what I would say.
We covered a lot of things, so I want to just kind of like rapid fire real quick go through kind of like what we talked about. We talked
St.
about
Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day. No,
I made a pizza.
If you're like, it sounds like we kind of have a couple of different directions that this could go. So you could have items that are like, they're just an item that attunes to the party, and then everybody can pull from that item. That could be like an expendable resource. It could be a just like kind of static bonus. But it's a benefit that is extended to everybody in the party. But that would be a party attuned item, which means that they don't each have to spend like one of their attunement slots attuning to it. It's the party as a whole is attuned to it. We also talked about having like items that are attuned by one person but extend the benefit to other people. And to me, I feel like that would potentially still take up a party attunement slot, depending on what the item is.
I would think how big it is, because if
Right.
it's something where it's like, okay, this is something where it's gonna take all of us,
Right.
that's just officially a thing. And if it's surface level and like in game, like a weapon is going to be used in game, that's usually a thing. But something like a utility, a communication, a lodging thing, that's kind of like everybody's group sharing it. There's difference between that and like personal usage,
Right.
attunement slot type of thing.
Because I feel like it, depending on the level of it, you could either do it as like a party attunement, or it's a like more akin to like the Infinity Stone in Guardians of the Galaxy, where they all have to hold hands in order to be able to like take on the power of it. And if that's the case, then I feel like that's more of a radius thing of like you need people within a certain distance of you in order to like pass those benefits on to them. Which it feels more like an extension of the item itself and less of a like the party attuning to it. To me, a party attunement would be anything that is going to like fully be attuned to the party. Like they don't have to be within like a certain distance of each other. Like they are all attuned to it.
That's a good point. Yeah, like distance wise, like what are the limitations? Like
Right.
yeah, so definitely yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a lot to play with. I think there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of like make this fit into your game. Like if you don't have to, obviously, I'm not your boss. But like,
wait,
if
what?
you're not their boss.
Oh. I was just like, am I free?
My contract is broken. Junie just disappears in a poof of
you've given me
ash.
clothes. I'm free.
Oh man, there's so many different ways that you can kind of play with it and make it better, make it like more accessible for your party,
Mhm.
and give your party benefits that they wouldn't normally have access to, so that there are a ton of different like options out there. um this was fun.
Yeah.
This was I enjoyed this conversation. Junie, do you have any calls to action for this week?
Um. Uh. Share 3 different things. Uh. Share something that would normally but just be for you. So bring in something where it's just like whether it's a show or a game
Mm-hmm.
that it's just like, hey, I'd like to bring somebody else in on this. Share something that normally you would just enjoy by yourself. Then partake in a big old shareable thing like a pizza
Mm-hmm.
with people. Share
Mm-hmm.
a big old something fun, and then share all that on social media. uh, 3 levels.
uh
Share something
yeah.
small, share something medium, and then share it as big as you can. I just heard the door Leroy Jenkins kicked open, and my kid is here now.
uh
So she's like, "I'm here." Yep.
there's that's I think those are great. Share your time, share your thoughts, share your energy. Like get some time and pizza with some friends, tell your friends about things that you enjoy. Like it just do some group attunement. Um
Yeah. Do
have
do some
a
group attunement.
have a
Yep.
great week, everybody. We will be
Mhm,
back
mhm,
on Friday.
mhm.
Until then, remember to embrace the nonsense, and we will talk to you later. Bye, guys.
See you.